Welcome to lecture 7 on structural organization in animals. So, in last lecture we discussed about the morphology of frog. In today's lecture we will discuss about the anatomy, that is the study of internal structures. So, we will study about the organ and organ system of frog. So, firstly we will study about the digestive system. So, digestive system mainly includes the digestive tract, which is also known as the alimentary canal, and the associated digestive glands. So, what are the parts of digestive system? It includes digestive tract and the associated digestive glands. Alimentary. What is alimentary canal? Alimentary canal is the digestive tract through which the food passes. Through which the food passes during the digestion. So alimentary canal of frog is complete, that is starts from mouth to an external opening which is cloaca, So it is complete and it is short because the frogs are carnivores and hence the length of intestine is reduced. So what are the main parts that are present in alimentary canal is that it comprises of buccal cavity, then pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and cloaca. So, cloaca is the opening outside the body. Opening that helps in excretion, that is eliminating the waste outside the body. So, it starts from the buccal cavity, then we have pharynx, we have esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and cloaca. So we can see here that starts from the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity is not shown in this figure. Then we have a esophagus, which is a tube-like structure, through which the food passes and the food enters into the stomach, where the food is digested. Then the digested food passes through the intestine, where further digestion and assimilation, absorption of food takes place. So intestine is of two types, small intestine and a large intestine. Then we have rectum that ultimately opens outside the body through the structure which is the cloaca that consists of cloacal aperture. So the opening of cloaca is the cloacal aperture, and there are certain organs that helps in the secretion of digestive juices like gallbladder and liver. So these gallbladder and liver helps in the release of the digestive gland. They are the digestive glands that helps in releasing the enzymes that helps in digestion. So why it is a complete alimentary canal starting from the mouth. It has an external opening for the excretory system. It consists of buccal cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, intestine, rectum, and cloaca, and also it has digestive glands. So, mouth is the first part of the alimentary canal. It begins at the mouth opening. Alimentary canals begins at the mouth opening. It is a very wide gap that extends from one side of the snout to the other. So, if you remember the structure, it has a snout-like structure. The frog has a snout-like structure. This is pointed end, and this is a broad end that is attached to the trunk, which is attached to the trunk region of the frog. So this is a very wide gap that extends from one side of the snout to the other. So it extends from one side of the snout to the other, and it is bounded by two bony jaws which are covered by the immovable lips. Upper jaw is fixed while the lower jaw can move up and down, which helps in closing or opening the mouth. So just like humans, we have upper jaw fixed while the lower jaw can move. So in the same way, frog also has upper jaw fixed and lower jaw can move up and down to close or open the mouth. The next part is buccal cavity. So mouth opens into a large, wide, shallow oral or buccal cavity. Buccal cavity is also known as oral cavity, and it is lined by the ciliated columnar epithelium. So the ciliated columnar epithelial lining contains the mucus glands. What is the function of this mucus gland? these mucus glands secretes the mucus, and we know that mucus helps in the lubrication. So it helps in lubricating the food so that it can easily pass through the alimentary canal. One very important thing is that there are no salivary glands in frog. So therefore we can say that no such digestion of food starts even in the mouth or in the buccal cavity, because there are no salivary glands or no enzymes which are present that helps in the digestion of food in the mouth or the buccal cavity. However, it contains ciliated columnar epithelium that secretes the mucus, and this helps in the lubrication of the food, therefore allowing the passage of food easily into the alimentary canal. The third part is pharynx. So posteriorly, the buccal cavity passes into demarcation into a short pharynx. So this is the anterior region. This is the posterior region. So posteriorly, it passes, like the buccal cavity passes without demarcation. So there is no as such demarcation between the buccal cavity and pharynx, but it passes without demarcation into a short pharynx. Hence, sometimes we called it as not as pharynx separately or buccal cavity separately, but as a buccopharyngeal cavity. Why we are saying so? We are saying so because there is no such clear demarcation between the buccal cavity and the pharynx, and therefore we can call both together as buccopharyngeal cavity. So various apertures open into this pharynx, and then the food from the pharynx passes to the esophagus. So esophagus is a short, wide, muscular and highly distensible tube. So the food passes through this short, wide, muscular and highly distensible tube, and it allows the movement of the food, allows the movement of food from the mouth to the stomach. So it provides the passage. We can say that it provides the passage. Provides the passage to the food from the mouth to the stomach. So it is a short, wide, muscular and highly distensible tube, and in the peritoneal cavity, esophagus enlarges to merge imperceptibly with the stomach. So we can see in this figure also, in the last figure, we can see here that the esophagus merges completely into the stomach. So as such, we cannot differentiate between the two. The esophagus merges completely between into the stomach. Then we have next stomach. So stomach lies on the left side in the body cavity, which is attached to the dorsal body wall by a mesentery called mesogaster. So the attachment of the stomach with the body wall is with the help of the mesogaster, and stomach serves for the storage and digestion of the food. So it is a sac-like structure that helps in the storage and digestion of the food. Next structure is small intestine. We all might be knowing this, that the small intestine is actually we will measure the length, then the small intestine is larger than the larger intestine. But why it is named so? Because it is a narrow tube. So because of the width, we call it as small intestine. So small intestine is a long and is coiled narrow tube about 30 centimeter long and attached mid dorsally to body wall with the help of mesenteries, and it is made up of two parts, a small anterior duodenum and a much longer posterior ileum. So small intestine is made up of two parts, duodenum and ileum. This is present on the anterior side, this is present on the posterior side. Small intestine opens into the larger intestine, or here we call it as rectum, which is short, wide tube. So because of the width, we call it as large intestine. This we need to remember, that the length of the, if we are talking about the length, then the length of the small intestine is larger as compared to the large intestine. But if we talk about the width, then the width of the larger intestine, or here it is referred to as rectum in frog, large intestine or rectum, it is wider than the small intestine. So it is a short wide tube about 4 centimeter long, running straight behind to open into the cloaca by anus, guarded by a longitudinal anal sphincter. Its inner lining forms numerous low folds. Its function is the reabsorption of water and the preparation of the storage of the feces. So basically, you can see in this figure that the small intestine opens into the larger intestine, which is here called the rectum, and this rectum opens into the cloaca, which is guarded with the help of the anal sphincters. So this sphincter gets closed and therefore prevents the backflow. Of any digested material. And what is the function of this large intestine or rectum? It reabsorbs the reabsorption of any essential water and minerals and preparation of fecal matter. Preparation and storage of fecal matter. So here no digestion takes place, but the undigested food in the form of fecal matter is being prepared and the reabsorption happens. And finally, the undigested part is thrown out of the body with the help of cloaca. So it is a small terminal sac-like part into which opens the anus and the urinogenital apertures. So we will talk about the urinogenital system. So urinogenital means the excretory system that mainly leads to the excretion of urea. In frogs, it's urea. So cloaca opens to outside by the vent or cloacal aperture, which is lying at the hind end of the body. So this is about the alimentary canal. Now we will talk about the digestive glands. So behind gastric gland, besides gastric glands, which gastric means in the stomach. So besides gastric glands, which are present in the stomach and are helping in the digestion, intestinal glands are also present. These intestinal glands are present in the small intestine. So two large glands associated with the alimentary canal of frog are the liver and the pancreas. These are the two large glands which are associated with the alimentary canal of frog, which are liver and pancreas. So liver is the largest gland found in the body of vertebrate. It is reddish brown in color, multi-lobed, and it is located close to the heart and the lungs. Liver of the frog consists of 3 lobes, right, left, and median. And the innumerable cells, polygonal cells of liver secrete a greenish alkaline fluid bile that gets stored in the gallbladder. So this greenish alkaline fluid bile gets stored in the gallbladder, and it is stored in large spherical greenish and thin walled sac, which is the gallbladder, that lies between the lobes of the liver. So this we have seen in the figure as well. So one of the largest gland that is found in the vertebrates is the liver. It secretes alkaline fluid, which is bile. Bile gets stored in the gallbladder, and the function of bile is to emulsify the fats. As such, we can say that bile does not carry out any digestion, but it is actually breaking down the food into smaller parts. So fats, the larger units of fats, are emulsified. So upon emulsification, smaller fat units are formed upon the action of bile. So bile is as such not carrying out the digestion of fat. It is not breaking down the fats into its smaller components, but it is actually reducing the size. The next digestive gland is the pancreas. So pancreas of a frog is much branched, irregular, flattened, and yellow colored gland which lies lying in the mesentery between the stomach and the duodenum. So it functions as both endocrine gland as well as an exocrine gland, that is the duct. That is the glands that secretes their products directly into the blood, or endocrine that secretes their product into the ducts. So its endocrine part is formed by the scattered islets of Langerhans, just like humans, that manufactures the hormone insulin that is regulating the sugar metabolism. And the exocrine part secretes pancreatic juices. So this pancreatic juice contains several digestive enzymes helping in the digestion of food. Now, what is the physiology? So food is firstly captured by the bilobed tongue. So the tongue is bilobed. It is long, protrusible, and also attached at the anterior end. Fine. So digestion of food takes place by the action of SCL and gastric juices, which are secreted by the walls of the stomach. and partially digested food, which is called as the chyme, is passed from the stomach to the first part of the small intestine. So we know that duodenum is present on the anterior side. So this partially digested food, which is the chyme, passes into the duodenum, and the duodenum receives bile from the gallbladder. We know what is the function of bile. Bile helps in the emulsification of fat. So the duodenum receives bile from gallbladder and pancreatic juices from pancreas through a common bile duct. So through a common bile duct, these two secretions entered into the duodenum, and bile emulsifies the fat, and pancreatic juices digest the carbohydrates and proteins. Final digestion takes place in the intestine. Digested food is absorbed by various numerous finger-like projections that are present in the walls of the intestine that are called as villi or microvilli. So it is a finger-like projections like this. Why it is finger-like projection? Because these finger-like projections, suppose if instead of this it's a linear structure, then the absorption of the food will be only through this surface. But now since it's a finger-like projection, therefore the absorption will takes place through a much larger surface. Therefore, microvilli actually increases the surface area for absorption. So there is always a reason why this thing is happening. So why instead of a linear, it's a folded structure, finger-like villi structures or microvilli? Because it increases the surface area of absorption. The undigested solid waste moves into the rectum and passes out through the cloaca. The next organ system is the respiratory system. We know that respiration in frog may take place through the skin, or it may take place through the lung. Also, the respiration may take place with the help of the in case of tadpole, if I'll talk, it may take place with the help of the external gills. We know that pharyngeal gill slits or gills are present at least in one stage of vertebrates. So external gills play an important role in the respiration in tadpole or larval stage. Also, the respiration can take place with the help of the buccal cavity. So through the buccal cavity also there can be an exchange of gases. So organs which help in the intake and supply of oxygen to the tissue get rid of excess carbon dioxide forms the respiratory system. So respiration in tadpole or larva, this is very important. Just like fishes, the respiration in tadpole or larval stage, which is completely aquatic only, it lives in water, is by means of external gills, and therefore since it is with the help of the gills, it is called as the branchial respiration. That is with the help of gills. So it is branchial respiration as that takes place in the fishes. Respiration in adult frog is affected either firstly through the moist surface of outer skin, which is the cutaneous, through lining of the buccopharyngeal cavity, buccal respiration, or third through the lungs, which is the pulmonary respiration. So these three modes may happen in the adults. So in each case there are numerous. What very important thing is required for respiration is firstly the surface should be thin, surface where the exchange of gases, where exchange is happening should be thin and rich in blood supply so that it can easily exchange the gases. So the easy exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen may happen. So in each of these cases, there are numerous blood supplies, capillaries that lie close to the moist epithelium through which two gases readily diffuse. So oxygen going in and carbon dioxide going out. So cutaneous respiration, that is the respiration through the skin. We know, we have already discussed that when the frog is in water, most of the time it respires through the cutaneous respiration. Goes on all the time whether the frog is in or out of the water. In practical, it is practically the only mode of respiration where the frog is under water or hibernating. So even in the hibernating condition, we know that the pulmonary respiration stops, but only the cutaneous respiration continues. Skin is richly supplied with blood, as I mentioned, and is permeable to gases. Before oxygen can diffuse, it must first dissolve in a moist surface, and therefore frogs are usually always staying near the water to keep their skin moist. It is further kept moist by the secretion of mucus from its glands. We know that there are certain glands which are present in the dermis region of the skin, and these glands secretes the mucus. So therefore the skin does not become dry or out of water. Since the skin remain exposed to air or water, no movements are needed in cutaneous respiration. Therefore, as such, no muscles, no external, no other muscles which are very important for the pulmonary respiration are needed for the movement. The second is buccal respiration. So buccal respiration happens on the land because for this the frog needs to open or close his mouth. So the mouth remains permanently closed while the nostrils remain open. So when the mouth is closed, nostril is open. The floor of the buccal cavity is alternatively raised and lowered. So it is alternatively raised or it is alternatively lowered so that the air can be drawn in when it opens the mouth, and air expelled out repeatedly through the open nostrils. Now, during buccal respiration, the glottis remain closed so that no air enters or leaves the lungs into the buccal cavity. As the mucous epithelial lining of buccal cavity is richly supplied with blood capillaries, oxygen in the air is absorbed by blood while the carbon dioxide is given out. So, buccal respiration is through the buccal cavity, and it is mainly taking place through the mucous epithelial lining. Epithelial lining, which is thin and rich in blood supply, thereby allowing easy exchange of gases. The next is pulmonary respiration. So we know that pulmonary respiration, which is associated with the lungs. So frog has the lungs are very poorly developed in the frog. Here I have shown a lung intact, whereas I have also shown a lung which has been opened out to show you the alveoli. So alveoli are thin sac-like structures. Again, this is a thin surface allowing exchange of gases. So breathing on land in atmospheric air with the help of lungs is called the pulmonary respiration. Lungs are poorly developed in frog. The inadequate supply of oxygen obtained through the lungs is supplemented through moist skin, which is the cutaneous respiration and the buccal respiration. So through the cutaneous respiration and through the buccal respiration, the necessity of oxygen is completed. The lungs are a pair of elongated pink colored structures, sac-like structures that are present in the upper part of the trunk region. That is, we can call it as thorax, but as such the body is not divided into head, thorax or abdomen region. So the upper trunk region consists of a pair of lungs which is pink in color. Air enters through the nostrils into the buccal cavity and then to the lungs. The next system is the blood vascular system. So the blood vascular system of the frog is closed. That is, it contains a network of blood capillaries. So the blood vascular system or the circulatory system of the frog is closed. The organs are supplied with the blood to the capillaries. That is, they are supplied the blood through the capillaries. Unlike cockroach, where there is an open circulatory system, where the organ directly bath into the blood, here the circulatory system is closed and the organs are supplied the blood through the blood capillaries. What are different organs that are a part of blood vascular system is heart. It has arterial system, venous system that consists of arteries, veins, has blood and lymphatic system. So the prime function is to transport all the necessary liquid and gaseous materials to the living tissues and also bring away from them the liquid and gaseous waste of metabolism to organs of elimination. So this is the prime function of blood vascular system which is present in the frog. So we can see here that the blood vascular system has been shown, the dorsal and the ventral view of the blood vascular system has been shown here. This is the dorsal view, this is the ventral view, and this is the internal structure. So heart of a frog is 3-chambered. This is very important. Heart of a frog is 3-chambered. That is, two auricles, right and left, and one ventricle. Two auricles and one ventricle. So we have a left auricle, we have a right auricle, and we have one ventricle. So you can see in this internal structure also. So this is the right auricle, this is the left auricle. The auricle within themselves is separated with the help of interauricular septum. This interauricular septum helps in the, it creates a septa between the different auricles, and then we have a ventricle, a lower structure which is the ventricle, which is common. So we have two auricles and one ventricle. We have different walls that prevents the backflow of the blood from one chamber to the another chamber. So heart is a muscular structure and it's situated in the upper part of the body. It has three chambers, as I mentioned, two atria or auricles and one ventricle. And it is covered by a membrane which is known as the pericardium. So pericardium, that is the membrane that surrounds the heart. So pericardium. A triangular structure called sinus venosus joins the right atrium. So you can see in this figure that the triangular structure, which is the sinus venosus, it joins the right atrium. So a triangular structure is present, which is the sinus venosus, that helps in the joining of the right atrium or right auricle. And then we have, so you can see here, this is the sinus venosus. In the dorsal side, you can see the sinus venosus. So what is this? This is, you can see here, opening of sinus venosus into the right auricle. So this one is the, if I'll mark it as here, just to show you. So this is the left auricle, this is the right auricle, left auricle, and this is the ventricle, right? So the opening of sinus venosus is present in the right auricle, and this, a triangular structure called sinus venosus joins the right atrium. So you can see here that this triangular structure is joining the right atrium and opening is present in the right auricle. It receives blood through the major veins called vena cava. So most of the blood through the body, the waste blood is received through the major vein, which is the vena cava. The ventricles open into a sac-like conus arteriosus on the ventral side of the heart. So you can see here that we have the opening of ventricles, which is the conus arteriosus, which is present on the ventral side of the heart. So on the ventral side of the heart, we have an opening of ventricles, which is the conus arteriosus. The blood from the heart is carried to all the parts of the body by the arteries, which is the arterial system. The veins collect blood from different parts of the body to the heart and from the venous system. Special venous connection between the liver and the intestine, as well as the kidney and lower parts of the body, are present. So the common, we know that liver, hepatic portal system from the liver and intestine. Special circulatory system for this, and kidney, we have renal portal system. Fine. So this is the basics of the blood vascular system. Now the blood of frog composed of plasma and cells. So the composition of blood is plasma, which is mostly the liquid, and cells. So cells are RBCs, which are also called as erythrocytes, red blood cells, WBCs, white blood cells, or which are also known as leukocyte. Leuko means white, that does not have any color. So leukocytes and platelets. RBCs are nucleated. This is important, that in humans RBCs are not nucleated, but in this RBCs are nucleated and contain red colored pigment, namely hemoglobin. So their blood is also red in color. The lymph is different from blood. It lacks the few proteins and RBCs, and the blood carries nutrients, gases and water to the respective sites during the circulation. The circulation of blood is achieved by the pumping action of the muscular heart, that is by the systole and diastole. Contraction and relaxation of the heart, the pumping action of the heart, of the muscular heart, helps in the circulation of the blood. The next is the endocrine glands. So the system for control and coordination is highly evolved in frog. It includes both neural system, that is the nervous system, and the endocrine glands. So endocrine system. The chemical coordination of various organs of the body is achieved by the hormones. We know that hormones are nothing but they are the chemical coordinators that manages the function, which are secreted by the endocrine glands. The prominent endocrine glands that are found in the frog are pituitary gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid, thymus, pineal gland, pancreatic islets, adrenal glands, and gonads. So these are the prominent endocrine glands which are found in the frog. That is pituitary gland, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, pancreatic, adrenal, and gonads. So nervous system of the frog is highly developed, and the nervous system of a frog composed of three main subdivisions. First is CNS, second is PNS, and third is autonomic nervous system. The nervous system can further be divided into three subdivisions. The first is the CNS, that is the central nervous system. Second is peripheral nervous system. Third is autonomic nervous system. So central nervous system mainly comprises of the brain and the spinal cord. We know that they are notochords. In them, they have vertebral column also. So the central nervous system consists of brain and the spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system mainly consists of the nerves that supply to the peripheral regions. So peripheral nervous system includes mainly the nerves, that is the cranial nerves and the spinal nerve that originates from the brain and that originates in the spinal nerve. Cranial nerve and spinal nerves. Autonomic nervous system is made up of parasympathetic and sympathetic system, parasympathetic and sympathetic parasystem. So these are the three main divisions: central nervous system, peripheral, and autonomic nervous system. Brain is enclosed in a bony structure called the brain box, which is known as the cranium. So brain is enclosed into a bony structure, which is the cranium. Cranium word is usually associated with the brain. This cranium word is always associated with the brain. So it is associated with brain. Cranial nerves, for example, is the one that originates in the brain, etc. So the brain is divided into three regions: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. And forebrain includes olfactory lobes, paired cerebral hemispheres, and unpaired diencephalon. So you need to remember that what are the different parts of the forebrain. So forebrain mainly includes, firstly, olfactory lobes that helps in the olfaction. Second is midbrain. Third is olfactory lobes. I'm sorry. So forebrain mainly consists of olfactory lobes. It has paired cerebral hemispheres and unpaired diencephalon. Right? Midbrain is characterized by a pair of optic lobes. So in olfactory lobes is present in the forebrain. In the midbrain, we have optic lobes, and in the hindbrain, we have cerebellum and medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata passes out through the foramen magnum and continues into the spinal cord. So through the foramen magnum, it continues into the spinal cord, medulla oblongata, which is enclosed in the vertebral column. We know that they have vertebral column and hence they are vertebrates. So if you know about the classification, if you know about the characteristics of vertebrates, you will be able to relate these things, right? So the medulla oblongata passes out through the foramen magnum, that continues into the spinal cord, which is enclosed in the vertebral column. Now there are 10 pairs of cranial nerves that arises from the brain. So there are 10 pairs of the cranial nerves as well as 10 pairs of the spinal nerves. So you may be asked, so there are 10 pairs of the cranial nerves and there are 10 pairs of the spinal nerves also. Right? So number may be asked that there are how many pairs of the cranial nerves or the spinal nerves. I'm sorry. So the number may be asked about the number of cranial and the spinal nerves. So there are 10 pairs of the cranial nerves and there are 10 pairs of the spinal nerves. Now we will talk about the sense organs. So the sensory system includes the receptors or the sense organs that will sense the different stimuli. So what is a stimuli? Any external change that happens in the environment. These receive sensations or stimuli which is due to the changes in the external or internal environment. Sensory nerves carry nerve impulses from sense organs to the central nervous system where they are interpreted as the characteristic sensation. So from the sense organ, sensory nerves carry the information to the CNS where the interpretation happens. That what we have to interpretation happen. What we have to do, what action we have to take. Each kind of stimulus affects a particular sense organ. Like man, frog has 5 special senses of touch, smell, taste, sight, and hearing. So, organ of touch, that is the tango receptor. So, organ of touch is known as the tango receptor. So, organ of touch is also known as tango receptor. Tango means related to touch. Frog has numerous microscopic sensory papillae which are present in the skin. This is important. Tango receptor or touch receptor are present under the epidermis of the skin and they are sensitive to various stimuli such as touch, chemical, temperature, humidity, light, pain, etc. The tadpole has a lateral line system which is absent in adult frog and this lateral line system acts as a sense organ or the sensory receptor for the tadpole. The second is organ of taste or taste buds. So these are also known as gustato receptors. Gustato is related to taste. Tango is related to touch. Or taste organs are in the form of taste buds which are present in the small papillae on the tongue. So these small papillae on the tongue and floor of the roof of buccal cavity helps in the tasting. Then we have organs of smell or olfactory organs. So this is through the nasal chambers. So on the nasal chamber, we have epithelial lining. This epithelial lining of two nasal chamber forms the olfactory organ or the olfactory receptor of the frog. Then we have organ of sights or eyes. We know that they have eyes. A pair of eyes is present on the head. Large protruding eyes are present. And photoreceptors or the organs of sight are the two large eyes, similar in the general structure and function with those of the other vertebrates. Then we have organ of hearing. One very important thing is that the ear not only acts as an organ of hearing, but they also help in maintaining the equilibrium. So statoacoustic organs mean for hearing and equilibrium. They are a pair of ears which are attached to the skull posterolaterally in all vertebrates. An ear of a frog consists of only two parts, that is the middle and internal ear. External ear is absent. This is important. External ear is absent. So there is no external ear, which is so conspicuous in mammals. We know that we have a very well developed external ear, but in the frog, the external ear is absent and it is mainly consists of two parts, middle and the internal ear. The next is the urinogenital system. So the excretory and reproductive system are functionally unrelated. They are not functionally related. But in males, the excretory product, that is the urine, as well as the genital product, which is the sperm, passes out through a common urinogenital duct. Therefore, these two systems are together called as the urinogenital system. So urino for urine, genital for the genital products like sperm. Sexes are separate. Each frog is either a male or a female. So we have a male and a female frog. It is a dioecious. Sexes are separate. Excretory system. So firstly, in urinogenital system, I will talk about the excretory system. So the elimination of nitrogenous waste is carried out by a well-developed excretory system. It consists of a pair of kidneys, ureter, cloaca, and urinary bladder. So it has a pair of kidneys, ureter, urinary bladder that opens out through the cloaca. So this is just a representative diagram, urinary bladder. So, wait. So we have a urinary bladder and that opens through the cloaca. So a pair of kidneys is present. We have ureter, which is the tube-like structure. So kidneys are compact, dark red and bean-like structures situated a little posteriorly in the body cavity on both sides of the vertebral column. Each kidney is composed of several structural and functional units called uriniferous tubules or nephrons. So you can see here, this is the transverse section of kidney, and each kidney consists of various structural and functional unit, that is the uriniferous tubules. So you can see here, this is the uriniferous tubules. These uriniferous tubules are also known as these uriniferous tubules, also known as the nephrons, are the structural and the functional unit of the kidney. So two ureters emerge from the kidneys in the male frog. The ureters act as a urinogenital duct which opens into the cloaca. In females, the ureters and the oviduct open separately in the cloaca because in females, the urine and ovum are carried out by, are carried in the body, are carried out in, are carried in the body in separate tubes. In separate tubes. The thin-walled urinary bladder is present ventral to the rectum, which also opens in the cloaca. The frog excretes urea. Its excretory material is urea and it is ureotelic. Ureotelic. That is, excretes the urea. While the cockroaches were uricotelic, they were excreting the uric acid. Excretory waste are carried by the blood into the kidney where it is separated and excreted. Now the next is the reproductive system. We know that in frog, we have frog are dioecious. They have separate male and female reproductive system. So we will first talk about the male reproductive system. Male reproductive system consists of a pair of testes, several vasa differentia, and two urinogenital ducts. So you can see in this that these testes are yellow colored structures and they are in connection with the kidneys. So you can see in this figure also, here the testes are in connection with the kidneys, and testes are a pair of yellowish ovid tests. Copulatory organ is lacking. This is important. We know that they do not have as such copulatory organ, and nuptial pad is formed during the transfer of the when they are mating. So nuptial pad is formed for clasping the female during mating. Testes are a pair of yellowish ovid structures which are found adhere to the upper part of the kidneys by a double fold of peritoneum called the mesorrheium. So they are found on the upper part of the kidneys where they are attached by a double fold of peritoneum called mesorrheium. Vasa efferentia are 10 to 12 in number that arise from the testes. You can see here, these are the vasa efferentia that are 10 to 12 in number and arising from the testes. They enter the kidneys on their side and open into the Bidder's canal. So they enter into the kidney and opens into the Bidder's canal. So you can see in this figure, this testes contains vasa efferentia that enters into the kidney, the Bidder's canal. Fine. Finally, it communicates with the urinogenital duct. Here, it comes in contact with that comes out of the kidneys and open into the cloaca. So once it enters into the kidney, you can see here that the genital product, that is the sperm, enters into the urine system, the excretory system, and now it will come out through the cloaca. The cloaca is a small median chamber that is used to pass fecal matter, urine, and sperms to the exterior. So you can see in this figure that it enters into the rectum, which finally opens to the cloaca or cloacal. Oh, sorry. It enters the testes. The secretion of testes enters into the urinogenital system, and through urinary bladder, it comes out in the form of sperm through the cloaca. Female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries and the ovaries are situated near the kidneys, and there is no functional connection with the kidneys. You can see here the ovaries do not have any functional connection with the kidneys. They consist of several ova. So a pair of oviduct arising from the ovaries open into the cloaca separately. You can see here that a pair of oviduct opens separately into the cloaca. So it is not through the urinary bladder, but a pair of oviduct is opening separately. A mature female can lay 2,500 to 3,000 ova at a time, and fertilization is external. We know that ova are released outside in the water, and sperm is also released in the water, and the fertilization takes place externally in the water. So fertilization is external. Next is the development. So fertilization is external. I think what I said internal. Fertilization is external. That takes place in the water. So this is the egg phase. These are the fertilized eggs. These fertilized eggs develop into the larva. The larva of frog is known as the tadpole. This may be asked. This seems easy, but this may be asked that the larva of frog is called as the tadpole, and it undergoes metamorphosis, that is a series of changes in the structure, in anatomy and morphology, resulting in the development into a complete adult frog. So this is the development in the frog, and this is how the cycle continues. So with this, it's the end of the different organ systems that are present in the frog, and it is also the last lecture on the structural organization in animals.